and they're basically measuring my love for my own father based off of what I post.
Paris Jackson finally spoke the words that changed everything. In 2017, she told the world her father's death was a setup. She was only 18, but spoke with shocking certainty. Michael had warned her people wanted him dead. He said they would kill him one day. He even wrote letters about fearing for his life. But Paris revealed something even darker. She said getting justice was like playing chess. She had to be careful. What does she really know? And why has the Jackson family been fighting so hard to keep certain secrets buried? Paris Jackson's name has a story unlike any other. It all began in the late 1970s when Michael Jackson, still just a teenager, made a light-hearted promise with his sister LaToya and their close friend Kathy Hilton. They agreed that if any of them had a daughter one day, they would name her Paris. It was a simple pact, made out of friendship and youth. Years later, that promise became real. On April 3, 1998, Michael kept his word and named his daughter Paris Michael Catherine Jackson. The name meant even more because she was reportedly conceived in the city of Paris itself, during Michael's time there with Debbie Rowe. That old promise also lived on through Kathy Hilton, who named her own daughter Paris in 1981. The bond between these families and the meaning behind the name added a unique layer to Paris Jackson's identity from the moment she was born. But the story of her birth wasn't just about promises and names. From the start, it was tangled in controversy. Michael's marriage to Debbie Rowe in 1996 was seen by many as strange. Rumors spread that the relationship was less about love and more about an arrangement. Reports claimed that Rowe had agreed to give Michael the children he longed for and, in return, step away from their lives. After their divorce in 1999, Rowe received a settlement that was said to be around $8.5 million. Years later, after Michael's death in 2009, the Jackson family allegedly paid her another $4 million, so she would give up any remaining parental rights. Lawyers denied that money changed hands for custody, but the public couldn't shake the feeling that Rowe's role was more of a deal than a marriage. The contrast between this and the sweet story of Paris's name was striking. Paris's early years at Neverland Ranch were far from normal. Michael's fear for his children's safety meant that Paris, Prince, and Blanket were rarely seen without masks covering their faces. These masks became one of the most talked about and puzzling parts of their lives. Michael wanted to protect them from kidnappers, from paparazzi, and from the intense spotlight that he himself had grown up under. As a child, Paris didn't understand it. But as she got older, she realized her father was trying to give them a chance at a normal life, at least when they were out in public. After Michael died, their grandmother Catherine immediately stopped the mask tradition. But the image of those masked children stayed in the public's mind, a strange reminder of how hard Michael tried to shield them. Even her godparents were far from ordinary. Michael chose Elizabeth Taylor and Macaulay Culkin, both of whom knew what it meant to grow up famous. Elizabeth became a kind of grandmother figure, offering wisdom from her own life in the spotlight. Macaulay, who had been a child star himself, became a friend Paris could trust. These connections weren't just for show, they were lifelines, helping Paris deal with the pressures that came with being Michael Jackson's daughter. Paris's early childhood was marked by isolation. Until the 6th grade, she was homeschooled at Neverland Ranch. She had almost no friends her own age. Most of her time was spent with family and staff. When she finally entered a regular school after Michael's death, she was overwhelmed. Suddenly, she had to learn how to fit in, how to talk to other kids, and how to deal with the real world. She described it as scary and said it was hard to catch up. The years of isolation left deep marks, and as she grew older, Paris struggled with depression and anxiety, trying to figure out where she belonged. One of the most unforgettable moments of Paris's life came when she was just 11 years old. On July 7, 2009, at Michael's memorial service in Los Angeles, she stepped up to the microphone. No one expected her to speak. Surrounded by family, through tears, she told the world, "Ever since I was born, Daddy has been the best father you could ever imagine. and I just want to say I love him so much." That raw, emotional moment touched millions of people. It wasn't planned. It was just a grieving daughter speaking from the heart. It was also the first time most of the world heard her voice. The image of her crying in her Aunt Janet's arms became a symbol of the public's grief, and of Paris's sudden, painful entry into the spotlight. Michael's death brought with it a storm of legal battles over custody. His mother, Catherine, was given temporary custody, but the fight was messy. Debbie Rowe and other family members, including Michael's nephew TJ Jackson, became part of the dispute. Michael's estate was deep in debt, about $400 million, but it was expected to keep earning millions each year. In 2012, things became even more complicated. Catherine disappeared for a few days, and TJ was made temporary guardian. When she came back, a judge decided they would share guardianship. The shifting arrangements kept the children's lives unstable and in the public eye. In 2010, Paris took a big step into the world. She started at Buckley School in Los Angeles, a private school that cost almost $30,000 a year. It was a shock after a lifetime of homeschooling. For the first time, she had classmates her age, rules to follow, and a daily routine that didn't revolve around Neverland. She had to learn fast how to deal with other kids, how to handle teasing, and how to fit in while being Michael Jackson's daughter. It wasn't easy, but she showed strength and tried her best to adjust. When Paris Jackson was only 14, a terrible thing happened to her. A much older stranger sexually assaulted her, and she didn't tell anyone, not her family, not her friends. She kept it locked inside, feeling alone and broken. The pain was so heavy that it stayed with her for years, making her feel ashamed and worthless. Growing up as Michael Jackson's daughter, with the whole world watching, made it even harder to carry such a secret. It wasn't until she was older that she found the courage to talk about it, sharing her story to show that no one is safe from something so awful, no matter who they are. By the time Paris was 15, life felt too heavy to bear. After losing her dad in 2009, she turned to heroin and alcohol to escape the sadness and pain. She wasn't just drinking or trying drugs like some teenagers might. She was using needles, sinking deep into addiction. It was her way of hiding from the hurt of her dad's death, the assault, and the constant pressure of being famous. She later called herself an alcoholic and heroin addict, but by January 2025, she celebrated 5 years of being sober. Her fight to get there wasn't easy. It was a battle against a darkness that had taken hold of her young life. In June 2013, when Paris was still 15, her pain spilled out for the world to see. She tried to end her life by cutting her wrist with a kitchen knife and swallowing 20 ibuprofen pills. She left a note and called a hotline, which might have saved her. Ambulances rushed her to the hospital, where doctors watched over her for 3 days to make sure she was safe. The news spread everywhere, and people were shocked and worried. Paris felt like she couldn't do anything right, like she didn't deserve to be here. Her family sent her to a special school in Utah to help her heal, but it was a tough road, and she wasn't sure it helped. What most people didn't know was that 2013 wasn't the only time Paris tried to hurt herself. She later shared that there were other moments, times she cut herself or tried to end her life, that no one noticed, not even her family knew. She hid her scars and her pain, dealing with bullying, depression, and the trauma she couldn't shake. Talking about it years later was her way of showing how hard it is to fight these battles alone, especially when everyone thinks you have a perfect life. One of the saddest parts of Paris's story is how it connected to her dad. Doctors gave her the same pills for depression that Michael Jackson had taken. Knowing she was on the same medicine as her father, who died because of drugs, scared her. It felt like she was walking the same dangerous path. Depression wasn't new in her family, and those pills made her feel trapped in that cycle. Eventually, she decided to stop taking them, looking for other ways to feel better. In 2020, the world was shocked when Paris Hilton released her documentary, This Is Paris. She revealed the terrible abuse she had suffered at Provo Canyon School in Utah. Her story opened the door for others to speak out. One of them was Paris Jackson. She finally broke her silence and shared that she had also been sent to a behavior modification boarding school as a teenager. She stayed there for almost 2 years. What was supposed to help her left her deeply scarred. She was later diagnosed with PTSD because of the trauma. Paris Jackson described the school as a place where staff lied to parents. When students begged for help, the staff told parents it was just manipulative behavior from troubled teens. The truth was far darker. Paris explained how these schools could shut down and reopen under different names to avoid lawsuits. This cruel trick allowed them to continue harming children. Paris joined the Breaking Code Silence movement and demanded that these schools be closed for good. Her words, along with Paris Hilton's, sparked national anger. People started calling for the government to step in and stop the abuse in these so-called therapeutic institutions. Instead of healing, Paris's time at the school left her with lasting pain. She has spoken openly about her PTSD. She still battles nightmares and struggles to trust people. The school's methods were brutal. They used isolation and emotional abuse. They twisted everything so that even trying to contact her family became dangerous. Staff would block calls and tell parents that their child was just acting out. This made it nearly impossible for students to be believed. Speaking up often meant more punishment or a longer stay. Paris Jackson's rise in fashion and acting was anything but ordinary. In 2017, at just 19 years old, she signed a massive contract with Calvin Klein. The deal was worth millions and pushed her into the fashion world's spotlight. Calvin Klein didn't just want her as a model, they wanted her to be the face of the brand. Her dark, brooding look matched perfectly with their bold, rebellious image. Insiders described the contract as huge, 7 figures, many millions. Paris was expected to rule ad campaigns and red carpets wearing Calvin Klein. Raf Simons, the brand's creative officer, saw her as the future. Paris, the daughter of Michael Jackson, was now part of the next generation of icons, but it wasn't all smooth. Some fans criticized Calvin Klein for photoshopping her tattoos, sparking debates about honesty and fashion. Her journey took another big leap when she signed with IMG Models. She joined the same agency as Gisele Bündchen, Bella and Gigi Hadid, and Hailey Baldwin. Paris was just 18 at the time. The agency's president called her a unique sensation. For Paris, this meant she wasn't just Michael Jackson's daughter anymore. She was standing on her own in the modeling world. Paris thanked IMG publicly, saying she felt lucky and blessed. The agency was known for turning models into stars. Paris was ready to prove she belonged among the best. Soon after, Paris landed a Chanel campaign that made her a high-fashion name. The shoot took place in Paris near the Eiffel Tower. It had a bold World War II theme. Paris sat on a jeep in a sheer blouse that showed her nipple piercings, paired with a white skirt and big, sparkly earrings. The photos caused a stir. People compared her to Madonna. At 18, Paris was now working with top designers and getting noticed everywhere she went. Her platinum hair, dark eyebrows, and red lipstick became her signature look. Agencies were eager to work with her after seeing the campaign. Her fame grew beyond fashion. She appeared on the cover of Rolling Stone, showing the world she was more than just a famous daughter. Then came the CR fashion book cover. Styled by Karine Roitfeld, Paris wore Gucci and spoke about her father's influence. She said, "99% of my inspiration comes from him." The magazine also featured Halima Aden, showing a new vision for fashion. The cover proved Paris had her own voice and style. Paris's fashion sense changed with her career. As a teen, she loved punk and grunge. Black hair, ripped band t-shirts, boots, and piercings. She said she was more rock and roll than goth. By 2017, her style softened. She began wearing flowing dresses, beads, and earthy colors. She kept some of her edge with tattoos and bold makeup. By her mid-20s, Paris could switch from bohemian to high fashion with ease. She amazed crowds at Paris Fashion Week in sheer gowns and daring looks. Acting was always part of Paris's plan. At 13, she starred in London's Bridge and The Three Keys. It was a strange story about a girl brainwashed by a jellyfish queen. The movie aimed to help schools with its profits, but delays and personal struggles including Paris's 2013 suicide attempt, kept the film from being made. Still, it showed her drive to create her own path. Her real acting break came in 2017 on Fox's Star. Paris played Rachel Wallace, a stylish and tough social media expert. The role was nothing like her real self. It pushed her to show what she could do. The part was offered after she impressed Lee Daniels in a screen test. The episode aired in March 2017 and showed Paris could act alongside stars like Queen Latifah. She wasn't afraid to take risks. In 2018, she had a small role in Gringo with Charlize Theron, but her biggest shock came with the indie film Habit. Paris played Jesus in the film, wearing a nose ring and sparking huge outrage. By mid-2020, over 266,000 people had signed a petition to ban the film. Rumors flew that her Jesus character was a lesbian, though this was never confirmed. Paris didn't back down. She showed she was ready to take bold steps, no matter the backlash. In 2021, she joined American Horror Stories. She played Maya, a cruel, mean girl who betrays a friend and pays a dark price. The role was tough, and filming emotional scenes wasn't easy. But Paris loved the challenge and embraced playing a ghost trapped in Murder House. The show let her prove she could handle complex roles and win over fans of the genre. Paris chose her projects carefully. She wanted to work with top directors like Lee Daniels, who helped guide her in Star. She had been training for years, preparing for the right chance. Her choices showed she wanted respect as an artist, not just fame. When Paris Jackson met Gabriel Glenn in 2018, it was more than just love at first sight. It was the start of something that would change her life. They met at the Rainbow Bar and Grill on Sunset Strip. The place was full of rock history, and that night something clicked between them. Very soon, they were writing songs together. They called themselves the Soundflowers. The name showed their love for nature and how they saw beauty and growth through hard times. Together, they let the world see their journey on the Facebook watch show Unfiltered. Paris Jackson and Gabriel Glenn. For Paris, who had grown up hidden from the world as Michael Jackson's daughter, this was a bold move. The show revealed not only how they created music, but also the struggles they faced as a couple under the world's watchful eye. This was Paris's first big step toward making her own name in music. On June 23, 2018, Paris faced one of the biggest challenges of her life. She stepped onto a stage at Canyon Sessions in Los Angeles for her first real performance. It was a charity event for cancer research. The crowd wasn't just fans. It was packed with people who knew and loved her father's music. She performed barefoot, trying to hide her fear. But when she sang Daisy and In the Blue, the audience saw her raw emotion. The song spoke of hope and sadness. People compared her to Joni Mitchell. Videos of her performance went viral. Suddenly, the world saw Paris not as Michael's daughter, but as a true artist with her own voice. In June 2020, the show Unfiltered, Paris Jackson and Gabriel Glenn gave fans a deeper look at their life. The 6 episodes showed their ups and downs. Paris spoke openly about her sexuality and the struggles she faced after coming out. She shared the pain of a suicide attempt at 15. She also talked about how hard it was to live in her father's shadow. One moment stood out. Paris said, "I feel like I will never be enough." The show was praised for being so real and honest. People saw the pressure she carried and how music helped her heal. In August 2020, Paris and Gabriel broke up. The pain of that breakup gave birth to her first solo single, Let Down. She wrote it alone at night with her guitar. The song came out on October 30th, 2020. The video was haunting. Paris dressed like a Victorian bride with blood on her lips, showing the pain that wouldn't go away. The video got over 1 million views in just a few days. Critics loved how honest and deep the song was. Let Down proved Paris could stand on her own as an artist. Writing it helped her heal and feel strong again. Then came her album, Wilted, released on November 13, 2020. She worked with Andy Hull of Manchester Orchestra. The album mixed folk, indie rock, and alternative sounds. It shot to #1 on the iTunes Alternative Albums chart in just one day. It sold over 20,000 copies in the first week. Paris wrote or helped write all 11 songs. The album talked about heartbreak, loss, and starting over. Some critics praised her lyrics. Others said the album felt too sad. But no one could deny that Wilted showed Paris was more than just Michael Jackson's daughter. She was an artist finding her own way. Back in 2017, Paris gave an interview that shocked many people. She told Rolling Stone that she believed her father's death was a setup. She was only 18, but she spoke with certainty. She said, "Absolutely, because it's obvious. All arrows point to that." She believed Michael didn't die by accident. She felt powerful people had wanted him gone. Her words made people look at his death in a new way. Paris remembered how Michael warned her. He said people were out to get him. He told her more than once, "They're gonna kill me one day." He wrote letters saying he feared for his life. Just before his death, he even handed 13 letters to a friend, saying he felt in danger. His sudden death in 2009 made those warnings feel even scarier. Paris said getting justice for her father was like playing chess. She wanted to do it carefully. She didn't want to act too fast and risk everything. Her silence about the details made people wonder what she knew and what she planned to do next. When the documentary Leaving Neverland came out in 2019, many people expected Paris to defend her father, but she didn't. She said, "That's not my role." She supported her cousin Taj Jackson, who spoke out for the family. Paris wanted peace. She wanted people to calm down and look at the bigger picture. Some thought she was wise. Others said she should have done more. But it showed how hard it was for her to deal with the attacks on her father's name. Family drama followed Paris everywhere. After Michael died, the Jacksons fought over his $500 million estate. In 2012, a big fight broke out at the family home. Janet Jackson and Paris argued about their grandmother. Things got so heated that reports said Janet slapped Paris. Paris fought back, telling her aunt to leave. Police were called. The public was shocked. Paris later said she was sorry for her attitude, but admitted she was overwhelmed. The fight showed the deep troubles in the family, but it also showed how strong Paris could be. Even in the middle of chaos, she refused to be silenced. Paris Jackson's life has been a journey of strength, heartbreak, and hope. On January 7, 2025, she celebrated 5 years of sobriety. That date wasn't just a mark on the calendar, it was the day she chose life over addiction. Back on January 7, 2020, Paris took a stand. She posted on Instagram calling herself PK, an alcoholic and a heroin addict. In that same breath, she shared, "Today marks 5 years clean and sober from all drugs and alcohol." The post showed videos from her darkest moments. There were images of her battling addiction. Then came the clips of her collecting sobriety chips and smiling with loved ones. Her fiancé, Justin Long, was there in those happy moments. Paris said that even the word gratitude wasn't enough to describe what she felt. She thanked sobriety for giving her back her music, her pets, and her ability to feel both heartbreak and joy. She wrote, "I can't believe I almost missed it all." Her spiritual path has been just as powerful. Paris was raised to explore freely. She studied Buddhism for 2 years, but it was Wicca that truly called to her. She found peace in worshiping nature. That belief became part of who she is. Paris dreams of becoming a shaman. She's trained in Reiki and has mentors guiding her. Her daily life shows her deep connection to spirit. She meditates, practices yoga, and cares for her chakras. She even tattooed the 7 chakras down her sternum. She calls herself an empath. She feels what others feel, and she always remembers the Wiccan Rede. "And ye harm none, do what ye will." She shares her rituals openly, like cleansing crystals under the moon. Her journey is about healing, learning, and finding peace. Her body tells her story, too. Paris has over 80 tattoos. At least 9 of them honor her father, Michael Jackson. On her wrist is "Queen of My Heart" in his handwriting. On her forearm is the Dangerous album cover. And on her foot, the word Applehead. Her 7 ear piercings are for Michael's lucky number. Every tattoo means something. Each one speaks of love, loss, or victory. Paris said, "With every step I take, you lift my foot and guide me forward. Love you." Her ink is more than art. It's memory, it's strength, it's rebellion, and it's healing. In December 2024, Paris said yes to Justin Long. They had been together since 2022. She shared her joy, calling him "my sweet blue." She couldn't imagine life without him. When it came to their wedding date, Paris did what felt right to her. She asked an astrologer for guidance. She wanted the stars to bless their day. They looked at dates like June 25th and December 7th. Both had special planetary alignments. Even her ring was filled with meaning. It was designed with her lucky number 7 in mind. Every detail was personal. Paris is not just rich in spirit. She has built great wealth, too. In 2025, her net worth is about $150 million. People think it's just from inheritance, but Paris has worked for it. She and her siblings will one day share 40% of Michael's estate. For now, she gets about $8 million a year from the trust, but she didn't stop there. She modeled for Chanel, Givenchy, Calvin Klein, and Balmain. She appeared on the covers of Rolling Stone and Vogue. She acted in shows like American Horror Stories and Swarm. She makes music solo and with her band, the Soundflowers. She's also smart with money. Her stock portfolio grew from $30 million to $75 million in 10 years. In 2017, she bought a home for $2.3 million and later sold it for a profit. Paris has created her own financial empire. Not everything has been easy. In 2025, Paris toured with Incubus and Manchester Orchestra. She had to play in Nashville on June 25th, the day her father died 16 years before. Some people called it disrespectful. Paris didn't stay silent. She explained she didn't choose the date. As an opening act, she didn't get to pick. She said the day was painful for her too. She stood her ground. Her show went on, and she honored her father in her own way. She showed the world that she could face criticism and stay true to herself. Paris also honors her godmother, Elizabeth Taylor. Since 2017, she has served as an ambassador for the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation. She went to Malawi to see the work the foundation does. She helps raise money and awareness. In 2023, she co-chaired the Ball to End AIDS. That night, they raised big funds and honored heroes like Magic and Cookie Johnson. Paris uses her voice for good. She fights stigma, she spreads hope, and she carries on a legacy of love.